So, the leaked image. On the surface, it's simple. Concrete floor, red wall. But if you stare at it a bit, a bunch of quiet details start talking. Before we jump in, do me a tiny favor. Leave a like and drop a comment. The like-to-view ratio lately has been rough, and those 2 taps seriously help push these deep dives to more Banbanners. Alright, let's get into the stuff you probably missed in Ferris's image leak and in the release date announcement. First, the ground. The texture looks upscaled, as in the repeating pattern is a little too clean and a little too stretched, like a high-res pass laid over geometry that's seen better days. 2 takeaways here. 1, they're going for a slightly grittier, more grounded vibe. The micro-pitting and hairline lines read like real concrete. And 2, the upscaling look might be because we're seeing a close cropped capture with texture streaming at a high MIP. If you've ever paused a game where the camera hugs the floor, you know that hyper-detailed but somehow uniform feel. It's here. Now, the fun speculation. The floor screams Banban 7's city, weathered, industrial, not freshly poured. You can read subtle story beats from where. Fine dusting in the pores, darkened patches like moisture sat there for a while, faint linear sheen that could be light traffic abrasion, not heavy trucks, but repeated small passes. That opens a rabbit hole. Could light vehicles have navigated the alien city? Honestly, the mascot's anatomy doesn't sell driving to me, especially Javanium citizens with those hands, but the surface does look like something rolled over it. 2 explanations. Either tiny service carts or maintenance drones, or just decades of foot traffic and debris being dragged across. Either way, it reads used, not staged. The aging angle keeps stacking. If it's asphalt, Google's ballpark is 8 to 15 years without resurfacing before you see this level of dulling and scuffing. If it's concrete, and it looks concrete, 20 plus years poorly maintained is believable. Micro pits, a little spalling, aggregate peeking out. We've also got the oxidation story on the red metal wall. Slight color fade, a few darker freckles where grime or rust would settle, especially near panel seams. That's the 5 to 15 year outdoor exposure look. Except remember, parts of the city may be underground, so how do you get sun fade in a subterranean space? Easy, if the alien city has its own ecosystem. Skylights, broken roof plates, light wells, or even bioluminescent fixtures that cycle heat and moisture. Water finds a way. Humidity doesn't care about your lore. Speaking of the wall, it isn't just a red rectangle. Look for paneling logic. You can almost feel the vertical seam rhythm and tiny fastening points. That matters because those seams hint at modular construction, which matches the City Engine aesthetic from 7. If you pause the release date announcement and compare, the red isn't flat. There's subtle paint bloom around imaginary weld lines, a tiny fall-off where light catches the raised edge, and a few cooler blotches that read like touch-up paint aging differently than the base coat. Little details, big world building. Lighting tells a story too. The bounce off the floor is warmer than the key hitting the wall, like we have a cool overhead source and warmer rebound off aged concrete. That combo shows up in the announcement trailer's city shot as well, where fog catches the key light and the ground pushes back a softer tint. It's a small technical note, but it matters. They're not just slapping emissives everywhere. They're layering light so the spaces feel lived in, or, well, lived in once. Quick myth busting. I stared for a character shadow, reflection, anything sneaky in the corner. Nothing clean enough to call. If there's a silhouette, it's either out of frame or scrubbed. Sometimes a floor leak is just a floor leak, but that's exactly the kind of thing they drop to let us argue over context for a week. Okay, now let's stitch this to the release date announcement because that 35-second clip is denser than it looks. You already saw the obvious, brand new OST. We've never heard that theme. It's not a rearrange. It's got that tight 3-note motif in a minor feel, a pulse that swells, and a very clean modern mix. Less toy box creepy, more cinematic tension. Audio direction usually hints tone. The series is edging from playful horror to endgame stakes. Length matters too. 35 seconds is their longest date drop. Those extra seconds are there to show more environmental continuity. Freeze around the midpoint. Building on the left, functional door to the right. Not just a painted door, usable geometry placed where a service exit would realistically be. That layout is what makes Ferris a screenshot feel legit. It matches the practical city vibe rather than a theme park corridor. This is the same reason the wall art popped last time. It looks like paint now. Brushy edges, micro texture, light catching ridges. Earlier chapters look like decals on flat plaster. Here it reads as actual paint on a rough surface. Human hands, not just a texture pass. Little details, big world building. City identity. Everyone clocked that Banban 7 looked alien. Curves, luminous inlays, unfamiliar scale. In this new footage, it skews human. Linear facades, standard proportions, even the spacing of windows that line up with stair landings. So we're either stepping into a human world city, entering a replica built by the alien side, or exploring a mixed zone where both bleed together. That third option actually explains the aged but underground riddle. Parts open to the surface, parts sealed in, all of it slowly cooking under weird climate systems. And it fits the lore note that structures can be re-skinned. Alien bones with human finishes slapped on top. Back to Ferris's thread. When he posted that crab gift, that wasn't random. That's a wink straight at Clorenzo. Whether he's a one-off set piece or a recurring hazard, the movement tease screams gameplay, not just concept art. Combine that with the later Toxic Inhalation cartoon, he didn't post a gas canister, he posted a reaction. That's dev shorthand for, you will deal with this. So picture a section where visibility drops, the screen vignettes, maybe your movement slows, maybe you're juggling valve puzzles or ventilation toggles while something crabby scrapes around nearby. The Euphoric brothers love do the thing while under pressure sequences. This fits too perfectly. Platform status. He reiterated no mobile or console at launch. We've heard it, but it's worth repeating because the chat keeps asking. The Unreal note matters here. Ferris praised blueprints for the Steam build and mentioned C++ getting involved for ports. That's not fluff, it's your practical explanation for the delay. Port work equals different render path, input, platform certification, and often performance passes you simply can't brute force in blueprints. So PC first, polish, then ship the ports. The Clyro moment, yeah, that was awkward. The message about a Turkish voiceover team accepting the assignment lit up alarms. Ferris's response, I really hope you weren't speaking as if you were us, isn't him being harsh, it's the exact line devs have to hold. No one wants rogue emails going out with their name on them. Once Clyro clarified he wasn't impersonating, just connecting, Ferris cooled it with a thank you. But the takeaway is clear, don't speak for the studio. If anything, it shows how protective they are in launch week. And honestly, that's good. Chat chatter, someone asked if we were cooked. Ferris said nope, then later did the classic, a lot of nines USD joke. Translation, price is not some wild number, and the joke is just the joke. If I'm reading the room, they'll keep it in the familiar range. He's dodging a hard number probably means they're finalizing store stuff, not hinting at a surprise $40 tag. About those fake OST drops, he shared 2 tracks, then admitted one was straight from a free library. Troll move? Absolutely. But it also tells you the real OST is under wraps. Devs often cost decoys when the genuine piece contains motifs or instrument cues that spoil a set piece. So yeah, I'm not mad at the fake out. It means something spicy is coming. Micro stuff you might have missed. Ferris's throwaway lines often hide continuity. He joked about city engine fences. If you have the eye, those posts and rails are a visual anchor across chapters. The red wall having that worn modular feel lines up. He also did his classic stream of hello Banbanners, who's up, what's everyone up to, asked for background track recs while deving, which low-key signals he's still hands-on an editor, and sprinkled puns like Stinger Flynn being kicked from a buffet for acting a little shellfish. The guy can't help himself. The mood tells you they're confident, busy, but not panicking. Now, a curveball you probably weren't expecting in a Details You Missed video, Uni Balloony. For the longest time, they dodged naming him in relation to Chapter 8, even while trademarks were public. Recently, Ferris finally acknowledged Uni by name. No role details, but mention alone is big. I'd bet on at least a cameo or environmental assets, posters, signage, a prop gag, if not a tiny interactive moment. If they're planting eggs for future releases, this is how you do it. On the flip side, I went digging for clear talk about Clorenzo, Varza, and Miss Mimicker. Not much direct confirmation in the same breath as Chapter 8, outside that Clorenzo-y crab tease. But we did get a breadcrumb trail pointing somewhere else, Egghead Gumpty. Ferris said, I miss Egghead Gumpty. Not once, a few times. There's also that older line where he replied, "Egghead Gumpty 2" to someone. Message got deleted, but people screenshotted the context at the time. Plus the dev history. They've said Egghead Gumpty was their first 3D game and likely their first Unreal project. They called it a crazy era. If you've ever listened to creators talk about their early work, that kind of nostalgia usually ends up as either a tribute or a revival. My money? A sly Gumpty reference inside Banban 8, maybe a museum-style display, a retro arcade cabinet, a secret file room, or they circle back later with a remake or EG2 to diversify their lineup, alongside Banban. Either way, those I miss posts weren't random, they were soft feelers.
Tie this all together, and the picture looks like this. The leaked image isn't flashy, but it lines up with the announcement's lighting, materials, and layout logic. The red walls aging and the floor's wear suggest time has passed since Banban 7, or we're in a different segment of the city that's been decaying longer. Ferris's crab gif and the toxic inhale nod point toward mechanic-driven sequences rather than simple hallways. The no mobile at launch line plus the blueprint C++ split tells you why. The awkward Clyro moment reinforces how locked down the devcoms are getting this close to release, and the soundtrack fakeouts say the real OST is being protected because it probably carries spoilers. Meanwhile, Uni finally being named and Gumpty nostalgia popping up again hint that the brothers are thinking beyond Chapter 8 even while they finish it. If you spotted anything in that floor and wall shot that I didn't mention, tiny screws, weird paint spill, a reflection I missed, tell me in the comments. I want to crowdsource this one because the Euphoric brothers love hiding stuff in plain sight and letting the community do the rest. That's it for today's breakdown. If you're new here, I put a random subscriber on my channel banner every day. The catch? You also have to be subscribed to the channels I feature on my homepage. Want a better shot? Leave a comment so I can actually find you in the notifications. Appreciate you for watching all the way through. More leaks, more theory videos, and yeah, when the real OST drops, we're dissecting every bar. See you in the next one.